We left Port McNeill about 9:15 this morning. It was blowing 15 knots in the marina. It's blowing 15 knots out here in the strait between Malcolm Island and then Vancouver Island. Only points on the west end of Malcolm Island, and that body of water there is Queen Charlotte Strait. We're heading from the southeast corner of Queen Charlotte Strait to the northwest corner and then around Cape Caution probably tomorrow. We'll see how the weather does. The conditions are pretty easy right now, but the forecast is very changeable and has got some spicy sections in it, to be sure.
We've got about 15 to 18 knots of wind behind us, about 1 meter seas, I guess. Nothing too crazy. Otto can handle it. We just had two pleasure craft on their way to Crab in Alaska pass by us very closely. And we're about to head into a passage where we gotta watch out because there's lots of underwater reefs.
What a beautiful day. The spicy forecast was for a gale to be in the waters north of us, and they updated it and issued a gale warning for the waters to the west of us off the northwest coast of Vancouver Island. And where we are, we're supposed to be blowing 25 knots. Instead, what we got is 15 to 20 right beside us. We've had current behind us almost the whole day, which I wasn't expecting at all. And we've even got some sun. We made water for 2 hours, which used 80 amp hours, and we've put all of that back with solar power in a very short amount of time because it's really bright out. Neither of us are wearing downs, and we're warm and happy. Well, a little bit of spice showed up. It's kind of like, it was mild before and now it's medium spice. So we've got over 20 knots of wind and like a squall overtook us. So no big deal, the seas are really small, but we're in ocean swell now and I love sailing in the ocean swell. There's something peaceful about the slow motion up and down. Not much to look at, but that's Cape Caution. After 10 hours of great sailing, we arrived in Millbrook Cove. It was a little odd to find so many boats in here though. I guess it's nice that the fishing fleet decided to send us a welcoming committee. When we're usually here, in July, it's not uncommon to see only 1 or 2 other boats in this bay, and we've never seen this many. There are 3 challenging passages between Vancouver and Ketchikan. This video and the last video documented 2 of them, Johnson Strait and Cape Caution. We did both those passages with what sounded like bad forecasts, strong wind, and lots of rain. So we thought we should give you a little bit of insight into what our decision-making process is when we're deciding whether we should go or not go on passages that typically are considered to be gateways or barriers to people on their trip north.
So the first factor is experience. We've sailed a lot of miles. We know our boat. We know ourselves and what we're comfortable with. We know what conditions are most likely going to be like based on a forecast and how the boat will handle those conditions.
So of course experience comes from just getting out there and doing it and occasionally making a mistake and learning from the mistake. And we've got a number of mistakes in our back pocket to draw on, and thankfully none of those mistakes have been too bad. The second big one is listening to conditions, the actual conditions that are happening, instead of putting everything into a forecast. So when the Environment Canada says that there's a gale warning, say from McInnes Island to Pine Island, which is what we rounded Cape Caution in 2 days ago, that just means that somewhere along the coast, quite a large section, there might be winds up to 35 knots. It doesn't mean that the whole thing is going to be blowing a gale. So we like to listen to what's actually happening at the weather reporting stations, and BC's coast is blessed with quite a few reporting stations. There's a couple in the north end of Queen Charlotte Strait, and then there's one just at Cape Caution, and then there's a number farther north. And by listening to those, we get some idea of where the actual strong winds are happening, as opposed to just a rough guess based on a large area that a forecast would typically entail.
And the third thing is taking into account the weather trends. If we're planning on doing a big passage, we start listening to the weather forecast and to the reported conditions in that area for several days beforehand to get an idea of what's been happening and if there's any patterns that are emerging that are going to help us make our decision.
The fourth thing is the wind direction itself. In both cases, the forecast winds were to be strong southeasterlies, and that means that the winds are behind us. So actually that's perfect, and we're actually really hoping to get strong southeasterlies for our trip north, because we'd much rather sail than motor, and strong southeasterlies give us the opportunity to sail. Somewhere around 20 to 25 knots is actually our preferred strength of wind, because it's super easy. We can do all that with just the head sail and sail downwind without ever worrying about jibing the main. And both the days were forecast to have winds of that wind strength.
We always, or we usually, also have a plan B. We will quite often set sail in the morning with no definitive end place in mind, because we are going to evaluate the conditions as we go. So we'll have a secure anchorage that we can go to if we've stopped enjoying ourselves and it seems wise that we should stop, or else we can push on and have a long day, which is what we wound up doing.
And the last one goes with the first one, and it's boat maintenance and preparation, which really comes down to confidence. We've spent many days working on this boat in the last year, and working on our boats ever since we started boating. And that confidence that comes from knowing all the systems and knowing that the boat's maintained and that the gear that we need if things go bad is on board and it's all operating gives us the confidence to go out there in situations where the conditions might deteriorate to be worse than we expected, and we might be finding ourselves having some challenges. The saying is that the boat will take more than the people in it, and that only comes from having your boat well prepared to go to sea. So I hope this helps.
Yeah, and now you just have to take a look at that information yourself, think about yourself, your experience, your boat, what you know it can do, and then get out there and go sailing.